I'd like to take a moment to be makir tov to our wonderful sponsors of the Shir between Mincha this evening, the Karasik family. Schus refuah shlema for Chayes Sora Bas Reitza Emet Hashem. Siyata Nishma Shbizacha to a refuah shlema bekarov mamash besil shachol yisol refuah sanev refuah sagof. I want to make note as well and thank and may Omek, Alibi, Janet, and Yaakov Notice sponsoring the shir tonight in memory of his dear father, Rabbi Yisol Tanchem Notice, Rabbi Yisol Tanchem Ben Yitzchak Isaac HaKohen, all of us shalom, they get a shema shemizacha to a tremendous and continuous aliyah and neshama, and Gan Eden Shamayim Echoyel Echoyel Emet Hashem. I want to mention, with regards to the Mishnah's plaques as well, Avram Ben Shlomo, Esther Rocha Bas Mordechai, Yitzchak Isaac Ben Tzvi Hirsch, Avram ben Binyamin Tzvi HaKohen, Chaim Yecheskel ben Aaron, Aleim HaShalom, the Heilige Neshama should be zochah to a tremendous and continuous aliyah and neshama and Gan Eden Shamayim Echoyel Echoyel Emet Hashem. So we turn to Siyata D'Shmaya 2, a Chazal cited by Rashi in this week's Parshas Noach Perek Tes Pasuk Chav Gimel. And we know in the aftermath of the Mabul, Noach becomes intoxicated. And what takes place? He is lying there in bed without any clothes on. His erva is revealed in the Mela. On the heels of that, writes the Torah Kadosh of Vayikach Sheim Yefes as Asimla. Sheim and Yefes together take the blanket. Vayasima Shchem Shneim, they put it on their shoulder. Vayilchu Acharon is walking backwards. They shouldn't see the nakedness of their father. Vayachasu es erva saviyim, they cover over, they conceal his erva. Upaneim Acharonis ve'erva saviyim laro. The Torah is margish. Look at the meticulous nature, how careful they were, and being shomer the covet of their father. Barashi highlights a very important distinction. We can't ignore the fact that the expected Loshen Rabbim is absent. Instead of the expected Vayicho, the plural conjugation, the Torah's terminology was one of a Loshen Yochid. Vayikach Sheim V'Yefes. It ought to have been Vayicho. Why is it only Vayikach? Loshen Yochid writes Rashi based on the Medrash Ksiv Vayichu El Vayikach Limeid. It's here to teach us how Sheim Shenis Amitz B'Mitzvah Yosem Yefes. Sheim put in a little more effort, a little more ishtadlus, a little more enthusiasm, more than his brother, than his colleague Yefes. Lekach Zochu Bonov L'Tala Shel Tzitzis. V'Yefes Zoch L'Kvura L'Bonov. Pasuk in Yecheskel, when it comes to Machemeskel Gomogig, an idea we spoke about years ago. I quoted my Rabbi Mori for Rabbi Ratzvi Berkowitz Shlita. That's amazing. Mikotza lekotza, one gets a talis shel tzitzis, a gevaldige kovet, a gevaldige schus, which is what? It's not a beged for the golf. After all, you don't put on a talis of tzitzis in the morning to shield you from the cold. You don't put it on because it's a chelik of your actual abushim. It's something that's given kovet to you as it's selam elokim, as a chelik elokim imal. You're having one of the zayim mitzvahs hashkulas and mitzvah tzitzis. So Rashi goes on to say in the end of Parsha Shlach, you have Gematria 613, one of the Zayim mitzvahs hashkulas. Tzitzis Gematria 600 with the 5 Ksharim, the 8 Chutin, 605 and 8, 613. This talis of tzitzis, so we discussed the Klei Yakar and the idea answering the Mizrachi's kasha that's not a skira, the Gemara in Chulin and Sota, V'schus Avrami, Chut Vatzruchanal, and we got the Chutin Shel Tzitzis and the Ritzuas Tefillin. But the talis, the beged, that came as Schus Sheim, and we discussed that synthesis of Sheim Mitzad Echad with Avram Mitzad Sheni, and they combined to give us a beged, a talis of Tzitzis. Sheim gave us the talis Shel Tzitzis, and Avram Avinu B'schuso, we got the Chutin Shel Tzitzis. Either way, as my Rebbe pointed out, you have a talis at tzitzis. One of the Zayim at Shkulas Keneged, what Sheim did in this act of a Yechasu es Ervos Aviv. And Mitzal Sheni, what does Yefes get? Well, he got nothing right now, but thousands of years later, his descendant Gog, after getting killed in Mechemes Gog Gomoga, the Pasuk in Cheskel, he's going to be Zoichid Kvura. Okay, it's a nice thing to be buried. It's a nice thing to have Kvura, but the same act, the identical Pula, and Sheim gets what? A talis of tzitzis, a heilige ruchnius de gezach. And what does Yefes get? Yefes gets Kvura. Explain Mori Varabi at It's because Sheim is a person of the essence, and he's looking at the heilige elokim imal. He's looking at the tzelam because his kavana is what? Amar says in Sanhedrin, what's the kavanah? What does Sheim think about? I'm thinking about the covet of his neshama. Since his driving force is, I want to give covet to the neshama, which is being disgraced, lying here in the nakedness of the body. I'm going to cover over that dervas of Hiv, and he's going to be zolch to a ruchniistic eschar, which is the talis atzitzis. What's Yefes all about? Yefes is merely looking at, as his name indicates, the same way that Sheim is a name. What type of name is that? His name highlights he is the mahus, he's the essence. He looks at the pnimius, the Sheim, brocha zayin amar beis shmo gorib. He looks at the name, the core essence of the person. That's the neshama of Noach, his father. And because of that, he gets a ruchniistic beged, because he was thinking about covering over the disgrace of the ruchniistic neshama. He gets a ruchniistic mitzvah, the schar tal shotzitzis. Yefes, as the name clearly indicates, is what? He's about Yofi. He's about the peripheral beauty, the external beauty. Yavta l'kim l'yefes v'yishkon v'olei Sheim. It's a nice thing to have the beauty, but it's all something that's merely superficial. He's looking at the body of his father and saying, I can't have my father lying here in such a fashion. Hamela, he is Gashmias oriented, that's his focus. What does he get? His descendants is going to get Kvura. What is Kvura? After the body's neshama leaves, and all that's there in Olam Hazeh is the remaining corpse. When there's no more ruchniistic neshama, that's when the body gets covered. You want to cover over the nakedness of your father Noach. Your descendants, after his neshama leaves, that unclothed body will now be covered. The corpse will be shielded by the ground, and that'll be the Mida Keneged Mida. You're looking at Yaft, Elokim Liyefes, at Yofi, at superficial external beauty. You only see the Chelek HaGuf of your father. You're going to get Kvura, which is covered to the Guf, Mashenkin Sheim, a person of the name. The Pnimius, the Maos, he's focused on ruchniistic oriented pursuits. Mida Keneged Mida, measure for measure. What does he get? He gets a talis atzitzis, which is covered. Nothing for the Guf. You don't get anything for the body. It's something that is a chashiva. So if you're Lamani Mechabduse, this is Mechabduse plus. This is covered for the ruchniistic and neshama. Hamamela, it's all Mida Keneged Mida. And this is a pella. Adkan Divrei Mori V'Rabbi Agon Tzibur with Shlita Sheim, a person of ruchniis gets a ruchniistic eschar, and Yefes, a person of the Gashmi, gets a Gashmiistic eschar. They did the same pula, and they got a schar that was worlds apart. If we look at Rashi, though, Rashi's telling us, Lekach zochu banav l'tal shotzitzis. Rashi doesn't mention this idea. It's a gavaldig machshov idea, avado, and avado it's emes lamita shotayro. But l'maisen, the lashon of the Medrash, all we see from the Chazal, the Medrash that Rashi cites, is one distinguishing characteristic. Sheim and Yefes did the same thing. Vayechasu is eres aviyim, and notice that Vayechasu was taka b'lashon Rabim when it came to covering over eres aviyim. And to put them both together, Vayechasu Savim, was only in the opening verb of the pasuk. It wasn't Vayikchu Loshen Rabim, the expected usage. It was rather Vayikach. It says, according to the Chazal, why did Sheim get Azai Gevaldig Eschar? One of the Zayimitz Shkulas L'Dorei Doros, and Yefes gets nothing right now, but thousands of years later, one of his descendants is going to be Zeicher Kvura after getting killed. Mikotze L'Kotze. What's the Nekudas HaHevdel B'neihem? Malamet Sheim Nes Ametz B'Mitzvah Yoser. Half of a fella. From Rashi's terminology, based on the Lashon of the Medrash Rabbah, of the whole difference between the identical act performed by two brothers, two colleagues, in an act of giving covet to their father. Avad the Sheim is thinking Ruchnius, and Yefes is thinking Gashmius. But from the Lashon of Chazal, what do we see? It's a half levafilet. Because Sheim was Nisametz b'mitzvah Yoser. They did the same, the identical act, but Sheim put in a little more chazak v'yamatz, a little more of an mamatz, a little more of an effort, a little more shtadlus, more energy, more enthusiasm. And he gets this gavaldig eschar, and Yefes gets it's a pella, all because of what? For one little extra aimutz. But Rabbi said that makes all the difference in the world. And Rabbi Dov Goldberg fleshes it out in the Shira's Dovin and Megillas Rus that tells the Rosh Hashiva. Pasuk says in Megillas Rus, Parak Aleph, Pasuk Yud Ches. We know that Rus and Orpah were sisters, daughters of Eglah Melech Moav. They married brothers Machla and Kilya. Big Shaila in the Mefarshim, when exactly they converted. Were they converted at the time of marriage? Big deal. Either way, the brothers die. Machla and Kilya, they perish along with their father. All that's left is Naomi, the mother-in-law, and the two daughters-in-law. So you have Rus and you have Orpah. What happens? At the beginning, Rabbi Sai, Vatoma Rus, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. Wherever you go, I'm going to go and stay. Now, that was after the initial response. The initial response was Naomi turns to her daughters-in-law and says, Shovna b'naisai, lama senecha, don't come with me. And what did they say? No. At the end of the day, what did they respond? Vatisena kolan vatifkena od. At the end of the day, they both responded. They both raised their voices together. They both continued to cry. Arpa did not go back right away. Only at the end, Vatishak Arpa l'chamaysev Ruz dafka. Where's the difference? Vatera, when did Naomi allow Ruz to come along with her? Ki misametzes hi lelechas ita. When she saw what? Misametzes. Zok the rokeach. Misametzes hi lelechas ita. Lo matzinu giyaris misametzes kazos. We never found the convert who had such an even, such a desire and an effort to want to become frum. After all, this is a pella pliatzuma. She loses her husband, loses her father-in-law. She's got nothing. She can go back home like Arpa decides to do. She can have wealth, fame, right now. What if she gives up everything for what? For a life as far as she can see ahead, a life of utter destitution, living with a bitter woman. Naomi says, "Don't call me Naomi. I'm not the Nemas. I'm bitter." And she's going back to a world she doesn't know a soul in the world except for her mother-in-law. She's got nothing. She's already older in years. She can't expect to be getting married again or ever produce children. She's giving up everything that Teresa said. And what happened? Baba Basha Tzadiyala from her base. Havayasem Kisa La'im. Ha Melech Amar Lezer Malamed that Shlomo Melech sets up a Kisei Le'imo Shomachas Baba Basha Tzadiyala from base. Who is the matriarch of the entire Davidic dynasty? Rus. And what happens to Arpa? Arpa goes back. She's raped and abducted by many men. And Goliath, Goliath comes from Arpa. Mamish Mikotza Lekotza. Rabbi says a pellet. What happened over here? Two women. They were the same. They were sisters, friends, colleagues, and they were both given an opportunity to go back home. And Arpa says, "No, I want to stay with you, Naomi." And she cries along with the sister Rus. Only when what? Finally, the mother-in-law, precious. What are you going to do with that pressure from the mother-in-law, right? Some things in life never change. And the mother-in-law gives pressure. No, stay away. You got to do. And Rus says, "I'm not leaving you." "I'm not leaving you. I'm staying by your side. Wherever you're going to get buried, Telchi, I'm going with you." And no one, Zokter Okech, was ever misametz like this when it came to Gerus. Right, so Akech Misametzes he as opposed to Arpa. So the entire Nakudas Achila came down to what? This same echo of what we encounter here in Teschov Gimel Parshas Nayach. Vayikach Sheim Yefes Malamish Hashem Nitzamitz B'Mitzvah Yoser. Rabbi say we see it fleshed out, manifest all over again. Sheim puts in a little extra emuts and he gets Mamish. Klai so comes from Sheim, he gets Talos Chitzis Gemaldik L'Dairei Doris when the Mitzvah Sheskulis. And the same Paula Yefes. What? He's all about Gashri. What does he get? Okay, thousands of years later, one of his descendants is going to be Zecher to be buried. Half of a fellow because of the concept. How about this? Look, Rus becomes evil Shomalchus because of this. And Arpa is what? Fades into history. And she becomes Kilo or nothing. Fakir, she produces a wicked Goliath, half of a fellow. This is the Nakudas Achillik. It all came down to what? No wonder the Medrash even says on this Posuk in Rus Perk, Al Posuk cites the Posuk in Malachi, Paragimel Posuk Ches. What's the famous Gemara in Chagiga Tesem and Beis? There's a difference between an Ovid Olokim La'asher La'avada. Who's the one who says this? This is Ben Hey. Bar Hey to Hillel. I say it's very good. It's Ben Hey. What do we know about Ben Hey? Ben Hey was a ger. Ben Hey was a ger. Not only was a ger, that's why it's called Ben Hey. Taisa says off and art on the Daf Chagiga Tesem and Beis. Ben Hey, who we encountered at the end of the 5 original Prokim and Pirkei Avos. He's the one to tell us Ben Hey, Ben Bagbag, Ben Gerim, the Chido writes the Fum Tzar Agra. They understand Tsar Giorim. Ger, Giores, they understand Gerim, they understand what Tsar is all about, they understand a difficult life. And what happens? Ben Hey says, Hillel, my Rebbe, what's the difference between an Ovid Elokim L'Sholavodo, Ein Adom Misha Shon and Pirko Mei Apomim, and Misha Shon and Pirko Mei Apomim Bach? It's a half of a fel. You see what? Two people are learning and they're steiging. And one learns 100 times, and one learns 101 times. And we mentioned the Kli Yakar, and Parshas Eschon and Perek Daled Pasuk Tes. We mentioned the Grab, born in Pnei Meshulchan HaGrab. Zachar, to remember, is Gematria 227. Shachach, 328. The difference between Shachach and Zachar's Tua is 101. That's the whole difference between remembering and learning and forgetting and learning, coming down to 101. We mentioned Rashal, Katz, and Elabog, Yekidava, Reikum, Mikem. If your learning is empty based on the Yishami and Peah, Aleph, it's because Mikem, Gematria 100. He only chaz 100, he didn't chaz 101 times. The Grab, Asher Misha Bolekam Tamud Yono Babasa Daf Yud. Who has Tamud Yono? Asher Misha Bolekan Lamed Chaf Aleph Nun. Come out 101. Chidon beginning of Perkid Gimon is Kisei Rachamim on Meseches. So for him, all right, the Heilige Yechidot, Torah Tziva Lana Moshe, how much was he mitzaveh? Torah Tziva, Tzadi Vavhei, Gematria 101. Asher Misha Bolekan, we mentioned, that's one of Ashir Lamalas, May Ayin Yavo Ezri. Hey, you're going to get see out to the Shema May Ayin, Mem Aleph Yunun, Gematria 101. All right, so Bein Afrayim Parshas Kisisa, the Malach Mamuna and Zikaron is Michael, Gematria 101. The Malach Mamuna and Shichacha is Mas, Mem Samach 100. Michael or Mas, which one do you want, 100 or 101? Do you want the Khan? Do you want me Ayin? Do you want Torah Tziva? Tziva 101. All right, so David Cohen in his Kuntrus Aidi de Zutter on Megillah Sus and Simon Gimel Dav Kupchav Gimel. He cites the mission in Olos and Aleph Ches. It says that the Eibusher gave us 248 limbs, 101 on the right side, 101 on the left side, the remaining 46 in the middle. What do you see? The Eibusher Chazer. What he did on the right, he Chazered on the left. It's 101, 101. 101 is the ticket to Chazara. Amela Zochar Shochach Ashavish Lagan Be'ayin Tziva. It all comes down to what's the whole difference? That is what you'd say. See, Chazer, one extra time. No, that extra emetz, what's the pshat? The pshat is you can Chazer 100 and say, I got to a geschmack around number. I did everything I needed to do. What's 101? I can't go past 100. You can. You can push yourself to the limits. Put in that extra little emetz. And what's the difference? One little extra emetz. Sheim. The ancestor, Klal Yisrael, gets a talus at tzitzis. And Yefes, you didn't put in that extra effort. Yeah, thousands of years later, one lone descendant is going to be Zeicher de Kvura. Half of a fella. Rus. Oh, we see him shoot those shemikras. What does she see? I don't see Rus is going to be a big tzadekes. I don't see in the future she's going to be Imeshamachas. I don't see anything special. All I see is Vatera. One thing and one thing only. Vatera ki misametzes. Arba. She can't put in that extra effort. By the way, that's not coincidental. I read in a book, Attacking the Factoids, years ago. Oprah Winfrey's parents, they made a big mistake. They wanted to name her after a biblical figure. They messed up the pay and the resh. They called her Oprah instead of Arpa. They wanted to name her after Arpa, and it should have been O-R-P-A-H. They named her Oprah. She doesn't realize how lucky she is. All right, imagine if they knew all the chazals about Arpa. She doesn't know the Hakar Satov. She has to have that her parents named her Oprah instead of Arpa. Here, so you have what? This woman fades into nothingness, the mother of Goliath. And this is Ima Shemachas because of what? Because of Misametzas, that little extra imuts. Sheim versus Yefes. Rus versus Arpa. And Ovid Elokim La'asher Lo Avoda, with the end of all Trei Asar, the end of all the Nevi'im, the Heilige Novi Malachi tells us in Gimel Yerches, Eina Doma. What do you, Eina Doma? Tell me 101 is a Nacham Maila. He has everything the other guy has, he has something extra. What do you see from Chazal? That extra little mamatz, one little extra effort, one additional time to Chazal the blood, to Maseches Rosh Hashanah, and Maseches Ksulis, let me Chazal one more time. I bet I got to 100. One time that says push yourself beyond the max. Push yourself to the limits, and now you're classified as what? An Ovid Elokim. The guy did 100 times. Can you imagine a Bocher Chazes and Masechta? 100 times you go to a siyum and they bring out the prime rib, and it's mamish in a beautiful fancy restaurant. 100 they bring out the expensive wine. 100 times he chazed, and you know what Chazal are going to call it? He could have done 101. This guy's in Lo Asher Lo Avodu. He's not an Eved Hashem. He's not an Eved Elokim. Ein adoma mishashon pirko mei pam mei pam me'achad. More of a boisa, what do you see? One extra time can make all the difference in the world. Whether you're going to be the Av of Malchus or you're going to fade into nothingness. Whether you're going to get a talus at tzitzis or you're going to get something thousands of years later by one of your descendants. Whether you're going to be an Ovid Elokim La'asher Lo Avoda, what does it come down to? That extra little mamatz, Vatera ki misametzes, limit sheshemes ametz, chazak ve'amat Yoshua is told, chazak b'Torah ametz amasim tovim. It's enough, chazak v'nisas. No, it's got to be strengthen yourself. But the ametz with the vav achibur, you can never stop at chizuk ba'alma. You have to strengthen yourself. You think you got to 100, you got to 1,000. Push yourself beyond the limits. One extra time will make the difference for you, for your family, for all of history. One little extra time, one little extra minute overtime, couple minutes overtime, extra little the amatz, a little bit of extra effort. Givaldik, look how much I love you, the schar that I want to give you. I gotta push beyond the limits. Hatzloch and Roch Rechanani Makashi.